Welcome to the Histories of Northamptonshire podcast series, and this episode number 76. Recorded on location, each episode tells the story of one of the many and varied objects which are the focus of the exhibition A History of Northamptonshire in 100 Objects. The exhibition runs at the Northampton Museum and Art Gallery between the 20th of September 2025 and February 2026. Selected by local individuals, heritage groups and the museum's own curators, each object tells a different story from the county's past. For this edition of the Histories of Northamptonshire in 100 Objects podcast series, I've come from the Northampton Museum and Art Gallery, which has been the basis and the home for many of our podcasts, to a place of worship. And that place of worship is a synagogue. It is the synagogue in Northampton, where we've come to talk about a very particular item which is in the exhibition. Hello, who are you?
I'm Mike Nikas. I'm the president of the Northampton Jewish community. I'm also the Judaism presenter for the community.
Mike, what is the object which is in the exhibition?
The object we have is a Torah scroll brought over here from Austria by a refugee by the name of Max Brand.
Before we get to Max Brand, what is a Torah scroll?
Torah scroll contains the 5 books of Moses. It's written on parchment. It's written by a scribe. It takes him a year to do. This is a small one that was kept in Max's home.
So this is an object which is handwritten, and I believe accuracy is all important in the production of a Torah.
Yeah, if you look at a Torah scroll, you'll see it's sewn together in sections. If they make a mistake in one word, that section's taken out and destroyed. It has to be rewritten, which is probably why it takes a year to do. Some people call it the Hebrew Bible. Some parts written in Aramaic, most of it written in biblical Hebrew.
And as a result, the scroll is a very, very important part of the Jewish community here in Northampton.
It's the central part of a lot of Sabbath services. It's the central part of a lot of the religious festivals.
We've talked elsewhere in this exhibition about the Jewish community, and yet the community of people who have the Jewish faith in the county, it's a small number of people.
Yes, mainly because of age. Generations before, there were a large community. It's now shrunk. Basically, we have no children in the community now. In my day, if you were a child, you stayed here. Nowadays, children go away to university and they stay away and don't come back.
So can you see a time when in Northamptonshire there won't be many, if any, people of the Jewish faith?
I think that's quite a possibility.
Tell me about this particular Torah, because it has a fascinating story which is perhaps in its own right a parallel to ancient history.
It goes back to 1939, 9th of November, which was called Kristallnacht, which is the Night of Broken Glass. This particular gentleman wasn't even in Vienna when this happened. He was in the south of Austria on holiday. His parents were in Vienna. They owned a business in Vienna. They were handed over to the Germans by a gentleman, and the Germans took his mother and sister away. The father died of a heart attack on the spot. The Torah scroll was kept in their holiday home. He quickly put it under his clothing. His friend got him false papers, and he escaped out the country. He was told not to go back to Vienna. He escaped to England.
Is there any understanding as to why particularly he took this Torah, this particular Torah?
When I looked at it and I saw the cover, first of all, doesn't have a Star of David on it. It hasn't got letters on it. It's only got the cotton remains of where they were, which means he had to tear them off and hide it. So it became just a piece of cloth on a piece of wood, and he could hide it under his clothes. If it was identified as a Torah scroll, he was dead. It was a symbol of his faith. He had it in his home. We don't have a reason as to why he actually took it, but it meant so much to him, and it was part of his family history. He brought it here.
So his own life was in jeopardy, but so too was the existence of the Torah. It was in jeopardy. It made its own flight out of that particular area.
Oh, absolutely. If he'd have been caught with it, he would have been killed and the Torah would have been destroyed. Any symbol of Judaism the Nazis thought could be keeping the faith, they would be destroyed.
What was the reaction of the Jewish community when the Torah got here? Presumably we're still talking about wartime. It came here, but it would have come here relatively quickly.
Yeah, it was something that he kept at home. It wasn't part of the community here. It was his personal possession. But when he passed it on to his niece, and she gave it to the community. And we decided when we started doing school visits that it was ideal to be used for a good purpose instead of just lying there. The fact that it came here and that he found a home here and he came to Northampton and he worked in Northampton and he kept that Torah scroll here, knowing that it would be safe here, that's one thing. The fact that we use it now is in his memory.
How do you use a Torah scroll?
I show the children what it is, tell them how it's made, and they look at it and they can actually touch the object itself. Strictly speaking, you can't touch a Torah scroll. You have to use a pointer because it's a holy item. But when it's damaged, or if it's no longer clearly readable, then it's what they call, there's a word called puzzle, which means damaged. And a person can use it. Then we can use it so I can actually have people touch it.
So if it hasn't been damaged, it is a revered sacred item and it can't be used for anything other than services of the Jewish faith.
Correct.
How do you read the Torah?
Right to left.
Right to left, so opposite to the way that most of us would read language in Northamptonshire. That sets the item apart. Therefore, being able to read Jewish scripture is a skill in its own right. Where do you learn those skills?
As a child, you learn to read Hebrew from 5 years old up to when you're 13. But you read from books with vowels. When you're 13, you read from a Torah scroll on your 13th birthday. It's a thing that people may have heard of called a bar mitzvah. And that's when he will read in front of all his family and all the friends, he will read that portion on his birthday, on the Sabbath of his birthday, to the community. It's a milestone for a child, and he becomes a man in Jewish law.
Do you remember doing it yourself?
Yes, and you could hear my knees knocking as I did it.
Mike, the Torah arrived in Northampton with Max Brandt. What happened to Max Brandt after World War II?
After World War II?
All right, sorry, let me ask the question again. Mike, you've told me about the Torah and its flight out against the oppression of the Nazis. What then happened to the Torah? What happened to Max Brandt when he got here?
When he got here, firstly, he was interned. Then he joined the Pioneer Corps, because that was the only regiment he was allowed to join to fight against the Nazis. Then after the war, he worked for a firm in Northampton called Metoy, because that was run by a Jewish man from Austria he knew. He met and married his wife, which is another story. And then he took her back to Austria to show his wife where his parents' shop was in Vienna. He did that, I think, in the 60s. And the guy running the shop was the guy that gave his parents up. He just looked at him. The guy went white when he saw him. And he said, "I don't want anything from you. I won't hurt you. I just want to show my wife where my parents' shop was." And he never, ever went back to Austria after that. He came back to England, and that was it. That was closure.
That is an astonishing story, and it shows a remarkable sense of restraint about the individual. Fascinating that you should talk about Metoy, because we have a Metoy toy car in the exhibition at the Northampton Museum and Art Gallery, telling its own story about Northamptonshire. What does this item say? And by extension, what does it say about Northamptonshire?
Well, it says, first of all, it says that we are still surviving as a community. In spite of everybody trying to destroy us, we still survive. And it tells me that I can show this to children and say, look, this is something from our religion. I want to show you what we look like. And I want you not to have fear of something you don't know. Now you know something.
So it debunks myths, it instructs people, it also teaches stories from the 20th century and man's inhumanity to man. It's also teaching for the future at the same time. It is a document of many hundreds of years of history, but it is equally valid and potent for the here and now.
Yes, it's relevant now.
Michael, thank you for telling me all about this particular Torah. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to this Histories of Northamptonshire podcast. If you would like to find out more about the objects or listen to other episodes in the series, go to www.northamptonmuseums.com. Alternatively, you can visit the Northampton Museum and Art Gallery, where you can see the A History of Northamptonshire in 100 Objects exhibition for yourself. The Histories of Northamptonshire project is funded by Arts Council England as part of the National Portfolio Programme.